how has changing demographics altered the retail landscape?
Changing demographics is there's a lot of positive examples, and there are certainly some more negative examples. But we'll start with the positives. And I think because our country has grown, and so much of our growth has been through immigration, and so as the Hispanic population has grown, it's given opportunity for Hispanic retailers to create stores or create whole centers that are built around Hispanic markets and that are tenanted with Hispanic restaurants and grocery stores that are catering from a fashion standpoint to the Hispanic market. The same could be said for the Asian community, for instance, and that we've seen centers that are built around the influence of the demographic of a particular neighborhood. And I think that's been a great opportunity for people, not only for a shopping center owner, but for somebody who wants to create a retail concept. And you did not see Spanish grocery stores, in the U.S., previously, and now, people have an opportunity to do this. And then another example of what changing demographics can do. Some of the most productive malls in the United States started out as being very average shopping centers. South Coast Plaza in Orange County, California, being one of the best examples. When South Coast was built in the middle of orange groves and not a high demographic. But as Orange County developed over the decades, and the people living there became they were more wealthy, and the demographic continued to sort of climb up the ladder, causing South Coast Plaza to go from a Sears penny anchored shopping center in its when it was originally built to being, Neiman Marcus, Nordstrom today, and being one of the most successful shopping centers, not only in the country, but practically in the world. And the same could be said for Bellevue Square outside of Seattle, Washington, for instance. When Bellevue was built, it was built as a very, mid-market traditional shopping center. As Microsoft, came into being and located in Seattle, in Bellevue, and all of their success, of course, all of the people who work there enjoying and participating in that success. And again, Bellevue, then moving up the ladder in terms of the type of center that it was to, again, being one of the most successful shopping centers in America today. But these properties didn't start that way, and it's because the locations that they were built, and the change that occurred. And then there, of course, are centers that were built in what were considered to be good, strong, solid neighborhoods, but that over the last 40 or 50 years, for whatever the reason, have been on a decline. And generally speaking, those centers have suffered. Because the customer that originally lived there, shopped there, is no longer living there, and it may be that nobody is any longer living there. It might not just be that it went from one type of person to another. It could almost be that that the neighborhoods are now no longer exist, and or if they do, they've become underserved markets, and that's a challenge that I think our industry needs to face. And because while there were once services there, and there no longer are, there may not be grocery stores that used to be in these locations, and you have other neighborhoods that have a multitude of grocery, and then these people have to drive, 8 miles to get to the nearest grocery store. So, there are many, many positive examples of changing demographics, but there are also, the not so positive examples. And I think it's also an opportunity, a hard one, but one that we as an industry, need to respond to.
So what do you think will be the effect of the millennial generation? Do they shop differently than us older generations? And if so, is it affecting shopping centers?
I think that the millennials, they've already had an impact, and it will continue to grow. One of the interesting things I find is because they're still so young, the buying power of the millennial isn't necessarily, they are not the most important group today, just from the amount that they consume, but they soon will be as their purchasing power grows and as they mature in their professional careers and the like. This is the first real generation that where everything that they have known is basically it's online. The mobile phone is just an extension of everything for them. And I think that's probably one of the biggest defining factors is that they simply want what is available to them online to be available to them, in the store. And they see no reason why it should be thought of as in two separate aspects. And so, this, I think the retailers continue to evolve and the omni-channel aspect of things, that they get better and better at it. But the retailers who aren't able to understand or get it, I think are going to face a much bigger challenge than they have heretofore, because there's still been plenty of people who, will just strictly, continue to shop at the brick and mortar store. But whereas the millennial, there is going to be an expectation. And so, this is why it's so important that the retailers get the online part of the business, I think, working in a seamless sort of a way. I think that, it makes for a better shopping experience. And the millennials, they love to shop. They love to go out and eat. I mean, so much of, what's fueling the food business in this country are young people who are eating out. So, they enjoy, I think, pretty much the same sorts of things. There's just an expectation as to how the execution of some of those things should be done. I think then that is somewhat different than, what baby boomers would expect, for instance.
So we hear a lot about how the internet might cannibalize bricks and mortar stores. But the internet encompasses a lot. For example, you can buy things online, but it also makes it easier to search for products in local bricks and mortar stores. How do you see the internet affecting bricks and mortar stores overall?
I believe that the retailer, is recognizing all of the things that they need to do, and that it's not the end all, the demise of them, and that brick and mortar is still critically important to them. And for all retailers, 90% of their business, generally speaking, if they're brick and mortar retailers, still occur in the store. And I think, the trick is for the retailer to take advantage of the internet. Everybody has become more knowledgeable, and information. That's one of the things that the internet has made so accessible to everyone. And so the research that's going to be done on your product is much more extensive. The price comparison shopping is people expect to be able to do it immediately. They're going to be in your store. They're going to be looking at their phone. They're going to be comparing the price. So you have to understand that all of that is going to be occurring. But at the same time, I think, again, it allows you, if you're good, to take advantage of that and just make your product stand out even more. Now, there are, certain product types. I mean, we've pretty much seen bookstores, go by the wayside. Same holds true with music. But other sectors of the retail industry, I mean, sporting goods it's an interesting one because there's a tremendous amount of sales that are done online, but yet there are certain sporting goods stores, just as of late, who have announced bankruptcies and or closings, going out of business. But at the same time, the strong players are still doing well. And so, again, I think that they're understanding what they could expect to sell online, why people like to come into the store. The same could be, said for movies, for instance. Everybody thought that the theaters were done. It's had an impact. There's no question about it. But at the same time, the number or the gross revenue in the industry is at all-time highs. The number of visitors, now it is down somewhat, so some of that is compensated in a higher ticket price. But at the end of the day, on the blockbuster movie, people, Star Wars, which set all sorts of records, those movies people still want to see in the theater. And the theater is, they're giving you better food, they're giving you drinks, they're giving you different options of seating and, reserve your seating. All of these different things responding to now what consumers expect. And so, I certainly don't think that, e-commerce is the end of brick and mortar retail, but I think it makes the retailer operate in a different way. The amount of sales that are done online, there's no question that it's going to continue to grow. So I think you have to, continually be reassessing, if you're a retailer, how it is that you're going about your business, what it is your offerings might be, and you may have to make some changes in some of that, but the two can certainly coexist, and the customer is going to expect that both be there, but both work pretty much seamlessly, with one another.